Hello and welcome. Let's talk about competition in the workplace. It can be this incredible engine for growth, or it can be a totally destructive force. Today, we're going to figure out how to tame that tiger.
So this really gets to the heart of the matter. The question isn't if we should have competition. The real question is, how much is the right amount? Because think about it. Too little, and everything just stagnates. But too much, and your team can literally tear itself apart. So where's that sweet spot?
To figure that out, we have to start by admitting that ambition is a total double-edged sword. Seriously, it has two completely different faces, and as a manager, your number one job is making sure the right one shows up for work every day. Okay, so let's look at the first face of ambition, the good side. Our source material points out that wanting to excel, to be better, that's totally natural. It's what motivates us to improve, to learn, to really achieve things. This is the positive energy you absolutely want to harness. And this is where it gets really interesting. On one hand, you have that healthy drive. But on the other hand, if you let it go unchecked, the source warns it can lead to, and I'm quoting here, elbowing and throat cutting. Yikes. People start looking for ways to not just lift themselves up, but to actively push other people down.
So, how do you know when you've crossed that line? When does that healthy ambition start to curdle and turn toxic? Well, there are some very, very clear warning signs you can look out for.
And here's what that fallout looks like in the real world. Suddenly, team goals don't matter anymore. It's all about personal wins. People just stop helping each other. Or even worse, they start hoarding information. Before you know it, departments are fragmented, little factions are popping up, all just to beat other teams inside the same company. It stops being about company success and becomes all about a personal victory. This quote from the source just hits the nail on the head. It's such a tempting tactic in a super competitive place, right? Make someone else look bad, and by comparison, you look better. But, and this is critical, the source is clear. This is exactly the kind of behavior a manager can never, ever reward. Okay, so we've definitely seen the dark side, but we started all this by saying competition can be a really good thing. So the million-dollar question is this. How do you get all that motivation without all the backstabbing? How do you channel that energy productively? This is where we get into the manager's toolkit. Our source lays out a really clear, actionable set of ideas for managers to grab the reins and make sure the race is being run fairly and for the good of the whole company. And it really boils down to these three key moves. First, you've got to give people clear paths to grow. Second, you have to be brutally honest about what those paths actually look like. And third, you have to actively stamp out all that negative behavior we were just talking about. Let's break them down. So that first point is all about opportunity. But let's be real, you can't promote everyone all the time. So what do? The source suggests something called enriched advancement. Basically, it means getting creative. If you can't offer a step up the ladder, maybe you can offer a lateral move to a new team, or send them for special training, or give them a really cool assignment. It shows people that growth isn't just about a new title. Now for step 2, just be honest with your team. Radical honesty. The source is so direct about this. If you have 5 amazing people all competing for one promotion, you have to be transparent with them about their real chances. Don't set up this fake race for a job that's not really up for grabs. That just breeds desperation and all the bad stuff that comes with it. And this brings us to what is maybe the most important piece of the entire puzzle. Making sure you are rewarding the right things. Because whatever you celebrate, I promise you, that's what you're going to get more of.
And lucky for us, our source gives us a really clear guide on how to do this. It's all about tying rewards directly to someone's performance on a specific assignment, not to things like who they play golf with.
And here is another really powerful line. This one can be tough, but it's so critical. Don't reward someone just because they're loyal to you or because they're your friend. The second you do that, you send a message to everyone else that politics matter more than performance, and that is a one-way ticket to a toxic environment. So let's lay it out, plain and simple. You want to reward specific skills and great work on an assignment. You want to reward collaborative teamwork. You want to celebrate when the whole group achieves something together. What you want to avoid rewarding is stuff like blind loyalty, us versus them attitudes, and these internal campaigns where one person has to lose for another to win. So look, the message here could not be clearer. It all comes down to this. Reward performance, not
politics. When people see that doing great collaborative work is what actually gets you ahead, that's the behavior you're going to see more of. Simple as that.
And that really is the big takeaway from all of this. Your goal isn't to stamp out competition. Don't even try. Instead, your job as a leader is to be an architect, to design an environment where people compete to be more collaborative, more innovative, and more effective as a team. So I'll just leave you with this one last question to chew on. Think about your own workplace. When someone gets ahead, why does it happen? Is it because they lifted the whole team up with them? Or is it because they were just the last one standing in a fight? The answer tells you everything about the kind of competition you really have.